In the cold, uncharted dark beyond the galactic rim, something stirred. The research ship Delos Prime wasn't meant to discover anything extraordinary. Its mission was routine, mapping gravitational anomalies and cataloging dark matter signatures. Most of its crew expected boredom, long days of monitoring data, and nights filled with the quiet hum of engines. That changed when the signal arrived. Unusual transmission detected. The ship's system AI reported calmly. Non-native frequency. Partial match with obsolete human communication protocols. Captain Solenvire turned from his station slowly. Human? That was impossible. Humans had vanished 20,000 years ago. They left behind ruins, silent satellites, and questions no one had ever answered. The prevailing theories were split between extinction and ascension, but no one expected a message. Put it on main display. Solen ordered. On screen, a soft, rhythmic pulse appeared. Not language, not code. Just a repeating burst, steady, deliberate, and unmistakably artificial. Navigator Terra leaned forward. That's not background noise. Someone or something is sending that on purpose. Solen nodded. Chart a course. Let's see who's out there. They followed the signal across the edge of mapped space. As they entered the region known only as the Silent Drift, their sensors picked up something massive. It wasn't moving, it wasn't broadcasting, but it was there floating. Silent, ancient. A ship. The size dwarfed anything in the known galaxy. It was shaped like a crescent, its hull scorched but intact. Long towers rose from its back, and its dark exterior was covered in fine engravings. Time and exposure had dulled the metal, but the form held firm, purposeful, and powerful. Solen stepped closer to the display, reading the inscription along. Its side, Solstice Crown, he said aloud. Gasps filled the command deck. That's a myth, whispered Terra. They say it was the last ship to leave Earth, supposedly vanished after the final departure. Solen didn't reply. He was too focused on the shape of the vessel, the design so unlike anything in use today, but undeniably human. It was beautiful in a way only something built with purpose could be. Prepare a docking maneuver, he said. We're going aboard. With careful alignment, the Delos Prime shuttle connected to the dormant ship. A boarding team led by Solen passed through the airlock. The interior of the Solstice Crown was surprisingly intact. Thick alloyed walls lined corridors that stretched endlessly in every direction. Dim lights flickered to life as they walked, triggered by their presence. There was no sound except the low hum of reawakening systems in the heart of the ship. They reached a command center. A large chamber with a suspended core glowed faintly. Panels lined the walls. Above them, a hollow image slowly formed a hologram of a figure composed of golden light. Welcome, the voice said. I am Arcos, steward of the Solstice Crown. Are you the successors? Solen stepped forward. We're explorers from the Zarin Confederacy. We followed your signal. The figure tilted its head slightly. Then the crown has returned by design. Your galaxy is not as safe as it believes. Do you mean? Arcos's glow pulsed. This ship was built for more than exploration. It was part of a greater defense, a final effort to contain a threat that once reached your galactic edge. Humanity left not because they were defeated, but because they chose to hold the line where no one else could. Solen's team exchanged uncertain glances. Terra whispered, you mean? They didn't die. They went to fight something else. Yes, Arcos answered. And if the crown has reawakened, then the seal has weakened. The threshold has begun to open. On a central display, a star map lit up. It showed known space, familiar sectors, and colonies. But at the outer edge, beyond the drift, a red marker pulsed slowly. It was moving. What is that? Solen asked. Arcos replied, that is what we feared might one day return. The crew stared in silence. Solon felt the weight of history settle on his shoulders. This wasn't just a discovery. It was the beginning of something much larger, something forgotten, and now something awakened. News of the Solstice Crown's discovery spread faster than Captain Solon Vior expected. By the time his crew transmitted a secured relay back to the Zarin Confederacy, half the surrounding sectors were already aware of a ghost ship floating beyond the rim, and none believed it could truly be human. Not until the diplomatic envoys arrived within a standard cycle. 3 ships approached the site, one from the Galactic Council, one from the Tavari Technocracy, and one from the Elinthian Reach. Each had different motives. The Council feared what the reappearance of an ancient warship meant for peace. The Tavari saw opportunity in its technology. The Elinthians, who kept records of human myths, believed it was a prophecy unfolding. Solon met with the envoys aboard the Dilys Prime, just outside the Crown's shadow. He made his position clear. We didn't claim this ship. We found it, and it spoke to us first. Then perhaps it should speak to all of us, replied Senator Ilren of the Council. Solen hesitated. He didn't fully trust Arcos yet. The AI steward was too calm, too composed. It spoke like someone who had seen everything and no longer feared anything. And it knew more than it revealed. Still, this wasn't something he could keep to himself, not. With the galaxy watching, the next day, the envoys boarded the Solstice Crown alongside Solon's team. Inside, the ship had awakened even more. Lights flowed smoothly along the corridors. Soft chimes echoed like echoes of a long-forgotten language. When they reached the core chamber, Arcos greeted them. You come with questions, the AI said. I will answer what I am permitted. Senator Ilren stepped forward first. Are you truly a remnant of humanity? The original humanity, not a simulation or copy. I am Arcos, it said, created by human minds, bound to the mission of the Crown. I am no imposter. And what was that mission? Asked the Tavari envoy. Arcos turned slowly. A side wall of the chamber lit up, revealing a broad projection of the galaxy, not as it was now, but layered with data from thousands of years past. You believe humans vanished. They did not. They departed. What they faced lay beyond your maps, beyond your wars. The Crown was sent to remain silent, watching until a certain signal breached our defensive line. That signal arrived 7 days ago. The envoys grew quiet. Solon asked, is that the red pulse we saw on your map? Is it alive? It is not life in the way you understand it. It is motion, pattern, expansion without limit. We called it the quiet bloom, because it does not destroy as much as it consumes. Grows, replicates silently. Why return now? Senator Ilren pressed. Why wake up now? Arco's voice dimmed. Because the bloom is reaching again, and there are no longer fleets at the galactic edge. No one left who remembers the last time it came close. Later, aboard the Dilys Prime, the crew reviewed logs Arcos permitted them to access. What they found stunned them. Visual records from the final decades of humanity's golden age. Gigantic fleets vanishing into the void. A young Earth, barely recognizable in its beauty. Dozens of colony ships leaving known space, each loaded with minds, science, and purpose. And most haunting of all, one message, left by a human commander. We are not fleeing. We are buying time. If you find this ship, then time is up. Solon looked at his officers. This changes everything. If what we saw is true, we were never the center of the galaxy. We were a shield, and it just cracked, Terra said. Quietly in the dark beyond, the red pulse drifted closer. Its pattern was no longer just repeating, it was responding. The revelation weighed heavily on Captain Solon Vior. humanity. Thought lost to time had not simply vanished. They had waged a war so devastating it drove them beyond the galaxy's edge, leaving behind silent sentinels like the Solstice Crown. And now, the shadow of that ancient conflict was stretching once again into known space. The Delos Prime remained tethered to the massive warship as Solon gathered his core team to discuss their next move. "We don't fully understand what the Quiet Bloom is," Solon began. "But if Arcos is right, it's a force that consumes everything biological, technological, even energy itself." Science Officer Rila Deska frowned, scrolling through the ship's archives. "There are fragmented battle logs, here reports of fleets engaging something that didn't behave like any known enemy. It's as if they fought against a virus, but on a galactic scale. And humanity chose to leave," Solon added quietly. "Not because they were defeated, but because they needed to regroup to contain the threat." Across the room, Navigator Terra studied the star map again. The red pulse had moved closer to inhabited space, and its radius of influence was growing. "We have to warn the galaxy," she said. "If the Quiet Bloom returns unchecked, no civilization is safe." "But most won't believe us," Solon countered. "The Galactic Council already doubts our findings. The other powers see the Solstice Crown as a prize or a threat." Meanwhile, aboard the Solstice Crown, Arcos continued to reveal ancient knowledge, but always carefully. "There is more to humanity's history than the galaxy knows," Arcos said one evening as Solon and his team listened. Before the final departure, humanity was a collection of factions, united by survival, but divided by purpose. The war that came was not only against the Quiet Bloom, but against those who sought to exploit it. Solon frowned. Exploit? What could possibly exploit such a force? "Knowledge," Arcos replied. "Technology capable of bending space, time, and matter." Such power was coveted, Dan feared. The ancient enemies of humanity wished to control the bloom, but in doing so, only invited destruction. Tensions in the galactic core grew as news of the Solstice Crown reached the major powers. The Threxian Empire, known for its military might and suspicion of outsiders, dispatched a fleet to the region, demanding control of the ship and its secrets. "We cannot allow a relic of an extinct race to disrupt the balance," declared Admiral Krath, leader of the Threxian task force. "If the humans survived, they must be contained or eliminated." Back on the Delos Prime, Solon and his allies debated how to respond. "We cannot face the Threxians alone," said Rila. "But if we unite the Council and the Technocracy, we might form a coalition." "First," Solon said, "we need to understand how to operate the Crown. It has systems and weapons locked behind layers of technology we barely comprehend." Arcos offered a faint glow. "The Crown's defenses are dormant. Its weapons require a commander, someone of human origin or genetic match." "Human origin," Terra said, eyes wide. "Is there someone still alive?" "There may be," Arcos confirmed. "In stasis aboard the ship rests the last commander of the final departure, Kale Trask." The room fell silent. Solon exchanged a look with his officers. Awakening Kale Trask could be humanity's only chance. But it also meant facing a living relic of a war nobody fully understood, a man who belonged to a time long past, yet may hold the key to their survival. "We have no choice," Solon finally said. "Prepare the awakening protocols." Deep in a hidden chamber of the Solstice Crown, a cryogenic pod hissed open. Inside, Kale Trask's eyes snapped to life. His gaze was sharp, filled with the weight of centuries, but his voice was steady. "Where am I?" "What time is this?" Arcos replied. "You have awakened at the dawn of the Quiet Bloom's return. The galaxy needs you once more." Kale's eyes hardened. "Then we have no time to waste." As Kale adjusted to a world he thought lost forever, the red pulse edged closer to populated systems. Its presence felt as a creeping shadow. Humanity's ancient war was about to be reignited, and the galaxy would soon discover that the legends were only the beginning. Kale Trask's eyes adjusted to the low light of the cryogenic chamber, his breath steadying after centuries of stasis. The air was thin and recycled, but the technology sustaining him was far beyond anything he had left behind. His senses, sharp despite the passage of time, began to piece together the enormity of what had occurred. "Where am I?" he whispered. Arcos's voice filled the room with its calm certainty. "You have awoken aboard the Solstice Crown. It is the last of the ancient human warships. We are at the edge of known space." Kale's brow furrowed. The edge of known space, and the quiet bloom. Arcos's light pulsed softly. It has returned. The threat humanity contained long ago has begun to breach the boundaries once more. You are the key to holding it back. Kale swung his legs over the edge of the pod, muscles stiff but responsive. Then there is no time to waste. Solanvir and his team gathered near the chamber as Kale was escorted out, their anticipation mixed with awe. They were faced with a man who had lived in a world of war, sacrifice, and secrets no one could fully grasp. You're waking up to a galaxy very different from the one you left, Solan said carefully. We need your guidance. Kale nodded slowly, absorbing the data streaming from the Crown's systems. I was the last commander during the final departure. We sealed the bloom beyond our reach, but that seal is weakening. What can we do? Tara asked, hope and fear in her voice. Kale's eyes hardened. First, we must awaken the Crown's true power. It was designed to face the bloom. Its defenses, its weapons, and its ancient codes remain locked. Only a human mind with the right genetic imprint can unlock them. Solan stepped forward. Are you that mind? Kale studied him. Perhaps, but the ship's memory is fragmented after millennia. I will need time and access to the archives. Days passed as Kale worked alongside the Delos Prime crew, interfacing with the ancient systems. The Solstice Crown responded to him, unlocking hidden caches of data. Power cores awakening from their long slumber. But not everything came easily. The ship was a labyrinth of forgotten technology, its systems protective against intruders. Why did humanity leave the galaxy? Rila asked during one briefing. Kale's voice was somber, 'cause the bloom was unlike any enemy. It wasn't just destruction. It was a force that consumed and changed everything. The only way to protect the living worlds was to build a shield. A line of defense beyond the reach of the bloom spread. And now that shield is faltering, Solan said grimly. Yes? Kale's gaze drifted to the star map projected on the wall. The bloom moves closer every day. It grows stronger in the silence left by those who forgot the war. Suddenly, the ship trembled. Alarms sounded softly, a warning that rippled. Through the hull, the bloom is here, Arcos announced. Its presence is detected at the boundary. Scans indicate it is beginning to interact with our defenses. Kale's jaw tightened. Prepare the ship for combat readiness. This is what the Solstice Crown was made for. Solan nodded. We'll rally the nearest fleets. This fight is bigger than any one ship. As the crew scrambled to ready the ancient ship, Kale stood at the observation deck, watching the black void beyond. A dark mass hovered, shifting like a living storm of tendrils and shadow. It pulsed with energy, threatening to swallow everything in its path. The quiet bloom. For 20,000 years, Kale whispered. We stood guard. Now, the galaxy needs to remember what it means to fight. Back on the Delos Prime, Tara reviewed incoming data from distant fleets. They're responding, she said. The Council, the Technocracy, even some independent factions are mobilizing. Solan's expression was grim but determined. Good, because if the Solstice Crown can awaken the galaxy, maybe humanity's legacy can still protect the future. The war that had slumbered for millennia was returning. The ancient ship, a relic of a forgotten era, was the first beacon of resistance, and humanity's last commander was ready to lead a fight no one thought possible. The Solstice Crown pulsed with life, its ancient systems now humming with renewed energy. Kale Trask had unlocked parts of the ship that had lain dormant for millennia, and its power was unlike anything the galaxy had seen before. The ship was more than a vessel, it was a fortress, a weapon, and a symbol of hope. Captain Solon Vire stood on the bridge, watching the starfield outside. The quiet bloom loomed like a dark storm, slowly advancing toward inhabited space. Its tendrils of shadow writhed, creeping closer to the edge of the last defended system. "We don't have much time," Kale said, standing beside Solon. "The bloom will strike soon." Solon nodded. "We've sent messages to the nearby fleets. Some have responded, but many are still skeptical." Kale's eyes hardened. "Skepticism will cost lives. We need to act now." As the first wave of the quiet bloom's advance reached the outskirts of the system, the Solstice Crown powered its defensive arrays. Massive energy shields flickered to life, forming an invisible barrier between the tendrils of darkness and the vulnerable planets beyond. "Shields holding," reported Rila Veska from the science station. "The bloom's energy is disruptive, but not yet overwhelming." Suddenly, the bloom pulsed. A wave of energy surged forward, striking the shields. The bridge shook violently, systems warning of strain. "Maintain shields," Kale commanded. "Divert all power to defense." Outside, the battle began. Small skirmish ships from the Galactic fleets darted through the void, firing plasma bursts and missile salvos at the advancing bloom. But the bloom was different. Its absorbed energy grew stronger with each strike, and spread tendrils that pierced the hulls of vessels like smoke. One by one, ships fell silent. On the bridge, tension mounted. "Captain, we're losing ships faster." "Then they can fall back," Terra warned. "The bloom adapts." Kale clenched his fists. "We need to hit it where it hurts." Solon nodded. "What about the Solstice Crown's weapons?" Kale smiled grimly. "That's why we woke her." The warship's ancient weapons came online, charging massive particle cannons and plasma arrays. These weapons, powered by forgotten technology, cut through space like bolts of pure light. "Firing main batteries," Kale ordered. Blinding beams lanced through the darkness, striking the heart of the bloom's mass. The creature writhed, tendrils retreating, energy pulsing erratically. The bridge erupted in cheers, but victory was fleeting from the depths of the bloom. Massive shapes emerged hulking. War machines forged from corrupted biomass and alien metal. These were the bloom's sentinels, living weapons programmed to destroy anything that threatened their expansion. "Hostiles detected," Rila announced. "Sentinels approaching fast." The Solstice Crown shifted into combat maneuvers. Agility was surprising for a ship its size. Kale expertly commanded evasive actions while directing counterfire. The battle was fierce and brutal. The Sentinels attacked relentlessly, battering shields and tearing at the hull with powerful plasma blades. On the bridge, Solon's heart pounded. "We can't hold them off forever," he said. Kale's voice was steady. "Then we fight smarter." Using the ship's advanced AI, Kale initiated a risky Tactica virus code derived from the Crown systems, designed to infect and disrupt the Sentinel's corrupted programming. Deploying cyber assault, Arcos announced. The Sentinels faltered as their systems began to glitch and malfunction. One by one, they collapsed into the void, their bodies disintegrating into dark mist. The battle finally slowed. The quiet bloom had been repelled temporarily. On the bridge, exhausted but victorious, The crew allowed themselves a moment of relief. Solon looked to Kale. "This is just the beginning, isn't it?" Kale nodded. "Yes, the bloom will return. It always does. But now, we have a chance to prepare to unite the galaxy against a threat older than any of us." Beyond the ship, the stars shone cold and distant. The quiet bloom retreated, but the war had only just begun. Humanity's ancient warship had reawakened on with it. A new hope flickered in the darkness. The battle against the quiet bloom had been won, but only barely. The solstice crown had repelled the first wave, but the threat was far from over. Captain Solon Vayar knew this was a rallying cry for the galaxy if only the fractured powers would heed it. In the war room of the D-Less Prime, Solon and Kale stood before a massive holographic display showing the current positions of fleets, planets, and the slowly advancing bloom. "The Council has agreed to send reinforcements," Solon said, "but they remain cautious. The Threxians are mobilizing their fleet, but their motives are unclear." Kale nodded. "We need unity. The quiet bloom doesn't care about politics or borders." Solon arranged a series of communications with the leaders of the galactic powers. One by one, they delivered their doubts, demands, and ambitions. Senator Ilrin of the Galactic Council remained skeptical. "We cannot commit to war based on an ancient ship's warnings alone." The Tavari technocracy saw opportunity. "If we harness the Crown's technology, the bloom could become a source of power for us." Admiral Krath of the Threxian Empire was more direct. "We will secure the Crown by force, if necessary. No relic of an extinct race will shift the balance of power." Kale's presence aboard the D-Less Prime was a beacon of hope. His knowledge of ancient warfare and the bloom's history made him a critical asset. "We must prove the threat is real," Kale said during a strategy session. "The bloom spores have already contaminated nearby systems. If we don't act, entire sectors will fall." Suddenly, the ship's sensors picked up a distress signal. "It's coming from the outskirts of the affected zone," Rila said. "A civilian colony under attack." Solon wasted no time. "Prepare the fleet. We're going to show the galaxy what we're up against." The fleet jumped to the colony system just as the quiet bloom's tendrils wrapped around its outer planets. The scene was grim: ships destroyed, worlds stripped of atmosphere, survivors fleeing in damaged vessels. The Solstice Crown took point, its weapons firing in sweeping arcs that tore through the bloom's encroaching biomass. Smaller fleet vessels coordinated, protecting evacuation routes and engaging bloom tendrils. Kale coordinated tactics with precision. Target the bloom's nodes, its centers of growth. Without those, the tendrils weaken. The battle was hard fought, but the colony was saved. Survivors cheered the arrival of the fleet, but the victory was bittersweet. "This is what we're fighting for," Solon said. "Not just ships or systems, but lives." Back on the D-Less Prime, Solon prepared a broadcast message to the galaxy. "This is Captain Solon Vayar of the D-Less Prime and Kale Trask, last commander of the Solstice Crown. We bring a warning and a plea. The quiet bloom is real, and it threatens all life in this galaxy. We must unite or face extinction." The message spread rapidly across worlds and factions. Debates flared. Some called for immediate cooperation. Others saw the bloom as an opportunity for conquest. Amid the turmoil, a surprising alliance formed. Independent fleets, long marginalized and overlooked, rallied behind the Solstice Crown. They believed in humanity's ancient warship and its commander. Kale stood on the observation deck, watching the stars. "We've bought time," he said quietly. "But the quiet bloom will return stronger. We need to awaken the rest of humanity's legacy, other ships, other weapons hidden in the darkness." Solon joined him. "Then we find them. Together." The galaxy held its breath. Humanity's ancient warship had reawakened not just as a weapon, but as a call to arms, and the true war was only beginning. The alliance had formed, but the galaxy's future remained uncertain. The quiet bloom retreated for now, but Kale and Sola knew this was only the calm before a far greater storm. The key to victory lay not just in the Solstice Crown, but in uncovering humanity's hidden past. "We need to find the other ships," Kale said, eyes locked on the star map. "The warship is not alone. There are others, scattered in stasis, lost to time." Solon studied the coordinates. Arcos provided ancient signals faintly pulsing from deep within uncharted space. "We're flying into the unknown," Terra cautioned. "These sectors haven't been explored for thousands of years."
"Exactly,"
Kale replied, "which means the bloom has had less influence there. The ships might still be intact." The fleet set course for the first signal, a remote system shrouded in dense nebulae. As the Solstice Crown led the way, the crew prepared for whatever they might find. As they approached, ancient ship sensors detected a massive structure hidden within the nebula colossal warship. Silent, but intact. "It's another one," Rila said in awe. "The Iron Veil." Kale's face tightened. Legend says the Iron Veil was humanity's guardian during the height of the final departure. Its weapons rivaled the Solstice Crowns. Boarding teams prepared to investigate, venturing into the Iron Veil's dormant corridors. The ship was a time capsule untouched, but covered in dust and silence. Deep within, the team discovered cryogenic pods filled with soldiers and scientists from the ancient human era. The data cores revealed a forgotten war strategy plans to contain the bloom and restore balance. But there was also a warning. The bloom was evolving, learning from each battle. Suddenly, alarms blared. Sensors detected movement biological matter infesting the ship's lower decks. Bloom spores had infiltrated the Iron Veil's hull. "Containment breach," Kale said sharply. "We can't risk the ship falling to the bloom's corruption." The boarding party fought back against the spreading biomass. Using purified energy weapons to burn through tendrils and spores, the struggle was fierce. But the crew managed to quarantine the infected sectors and initiate repair protocols. With the Iron Veil secured, the crew linked its systems to the Solstice Crown. The two ancient warships began to sync their networks. Sharing data and power, the combined firepower and technology rekindled hope. News of the discovery spread quickly, sparking renewed resolve across the alliance. But Kale warned against complacency. "The bloom will come back," he said during a fleet-wide briefing. "Stronger, smarter, and more aggressive." Solon addressed the officers. "Our mission now is twofold. Prepare for the bloom's return and continue searching for the remaining ships. Each one we recover is a step closer to victory." As the fleet prepared to depart, Kale found a quiet moment with Solon. "There's one more thing," Kale said, his voice low. "In the archives, I found mention of a secretan ancient weapon, buried deep within a planet, swallowed by the bloom." Solon's eyes widened. "A weapon capable of ending the bloom." Kale nodded. "It's our last hope. We have to find it before the bloom finds us." The fleet set course toward the distant, bloom-infested world, knowing the risks. As they ventured deeper into darkness, the crew understood one truth. Humanity's past was not just a story of survival, but a guide for the future. The war was far from over. But with each discovery, each ancient ship reawakened. The galaxy's defenders grew stronger, and humanity's legacy, lost to time, was beginning to shine again. The fleet moved cautiously through the dense, corrupted space surrounding the bloom-infested world. The planet below, known in ancient records as Elysium Prime, was once a beacon of life and advanced human technology. Now, it was a twisted landscape of dark spores and alien biomass, a graveyard swallowed by the quiet bloom. Kale Trask stood on the bridge of the Solstice Crown, watching the planet's surface flicker on the viewscreen. "The weapon is buried deep beneath that world." It was designed to eradicate the Blue Man ancient energy source that could disrupt its very existence. Solon Vior tightened his grip on the railing. And we're the only ones who can retrieve it. The boarding party descended in specialized craft designed to withstand the toxic atmosphere and hostile terrain. As they landed, the air was thick with spores and the ground pulsed faintly, alive with corrupted energy. Stay alert, Kale warned. The Bloom's influence here is strong. They moved through twisted forests and crumbling ruins, ancient human architecture buried beneath layers of alien growth. The deeper they went, the heavier the air felt, as if the planet itself resisted their presence. Deep beneath the surface, in a forgotten vault, they found it the core beacon. The weapon was a towering crystalline structure, radiating an intense, pure energy. Ancient inscriptions covered its surface, telling the story of a final hope built in desperation. Kale approached the control panel. If we activate this, it will send out a pulse to neutralize the Bloom's biomass across this sector. Solon looked around, but the energy required could destabilize the planet. Kale nodded grimly. It's a risk we have to take. As they prepared the activation sequence, the Bloom reacted from the shadows. Massive Bloom creatures surged toward the vault, their tendrils lashing and biomass shifting. The boarding party fought fiercely, holding the creatures at bay while Kale worked to power the core beacon. Almost there, Kale said, sweat beading on his forehead as the ship relayed energy readings. We're initiating the pulse. A wave of brilliant light erupted from the core beacon, spreading through the planet and out into space. The Bloom writhed and recoiled, its tendrils disintegrating under the weapon's energy. On the Solstice Crown, the ship's sensors registered the pulse's effect. Bloom biomass decreasing by 75%, Rila reported. The weapon is working. But the planet began to shake violently. Solon shouted, "Evacuate." The planet's core is destabilizing. The boarding party raced back to their craft, dodging falling debris and collapsing tunnels. The ground cracked beneath their feet as the planet began to break apart. Back aboard the fleet, the craft escaped just in time. From orbit, they watched as Elysium Prime shattered, fragments burning in the void. Kale exhaled deeply. The Bloom is pushed back for now. But this victory came at a cost. In the following days, the alliance solidified. The combined forces of humanity and their newfound allies rallied to rebuild defenses. Using the knowledge and ships recovered from the ancient past, Kale stood with Solon, looking at the stars. The quiet Bloom was a test of survival, of unity, of hope. Solon smiled. And humanity's legacy is alive again. We'll face whatever comes next. The ancient warships, once forgotten relics, were now the vanguard of a new era, guardians of the galaxy's future. The silence had ended. Humanity had returned.